The coffee machine whirred as Brandon moved through the kitchen with practiced ease. He poured her coffee first. 2 sugars, a splash of almond milk, exactly how she liked it. "Tosh," he called softly. "Coffee's ready." Tasha sat at the table scrolling through wedding emails, barely looking up. Thanks." Brandon set the mug in front of her, leaning down to kiss her forehead. She gave a small smile, but her fingers kept tapping at the screen. A moment passed. Brandon sighed. "Did you decide on the table settings?" Tasha's eyes flicked up. "What?" Brandon chuckled, shaking his head. "Never mind." He sat across from her, sipping his own coffee, his gaze flicking toward her phone. "You've been somewhere else lately." She scoffed. "I'm right here." Brandon didn't argue, but the way he studied her, the way his fingers drummed against his mug, he knew something was off. Tasha ignored the tightness in her chest. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number. You look like you're making a tough decision." She frowned, glanced toward the window. A man sat at a table outside, one leg crossed over the other, eyes locked onto hers. Dark skin, a sharp jawline, a smirk that felt like a challenge. The moment stretched. Tasha's breath hitched, and then everything flickered. The scent of the ocean replaced the smell of coffee. She wasn't in the kitchen anymore. The air was warm, wrapped in the golden glow of a setting sun. Glasses clinked. Laughter echoed. She looked down, a glass of wine in her hand. Tasha's heart pounded as she turned to him. Malcolm sat beside her on the rooftop lounge, sleeves rolled up, fingers tracing the rim of his glass. "You gonna answer?" he murmured, watching her. Her phone buzzed on the table. Brandon's name on the screen. Tasha's breath came faster now. Her thumb hovered over the answer button. Then she blinked. The TV flickered, casting soft light through the apartment. Brandon sat beside her on the couch, a hand absent-mindedly kneading her calf as he scrolled through Netflix. Tasha barely felt it. Her mind was elsewhere, somewhere with Malcolm. "Tasha." She snapped back. Brandon had set the remote down, his body turned fully toward her now. She stiffened. "What?" He studied her for a long moment, his fingers still resting against her skin. "Are you happy?" Tasha's mouth opened, shut, a quiet laugh. "Of course." Brandon didn't blink, didn't nod, just watched her. "Then why do you feel so far away?" Her chest tightened. The air felt heavier. Brandon exhaled, rubbing his jaw. He picked up the remote, but his movements were slower now, more deliberate. She could feel it in the silence. He knew, and for the first time she was afraid. Because if Brandon was noticing, it meant something was slipping. Something was breaking. Malcolm ran his thumb over her palm as they lay stretched across his couch. Music playing low in the background. "Tell me something real," he murmured. Tasha closed her eyes, inhaling the scent of whiskey and leather and something undeniably him. "I feel like I'm in 2 places at once," she admitted. Malcolm chuckled, pulling her closer. "What's there to decide?" he murmured against her skin. Tasha didn't answer. She felt his heartbeat against hers. And yet, for the first time, she wasn't sure she was in the right place. Brandon stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes shadowed by something he had never let her see before. "Tasha." Her stomach twisted. He never called her by her full name. "I need to ask you something." She set down her phone. "What is it?" He swallowed, exhaled sharply through his nose. "Is there someone else?" The room went still. She could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. And in that pause, Brandon's shoulders sagged. He nodded to himself. "That's what I thought." Brandon grabbed his keys. Tasha stood abruptly. "Brandon, wait." He didn't turn around. "You already made your choice, Tosh." The door shut behind him. She ran to the window, breath catching in her throat. His taillights disappeared into the night. She wanted to scream, to chase after him. But before she could, she blinked, and she was in Malcolm's arms. The shift stopped. Brandon was gone. Now there was only one life. The motorcycle rides, the passion, the thrill of the unknown. She was with Malcolm. She had made her choice, hadn't she? The park smelled like spring, fresh-cut grass and warm earth. Tasha wasn't supposed to be there, but her feet had taken her anyway. Then she saw him. Brandon, sitting on a picnic blanket, a woman beside him, a little girl in his lap. Tasha's breath caught. She took a step forward. But something was wrong. Brandon didn't recognize her. He looked right through her, like she was a stranger. Tasha stumbled back, heart racing. This wasn't just a breakup. This wasn't just a lost love. This was another world. Tasha wondered if Brandon even knew her. Tasha felt herself sinking. She had chosen Malcolm, or at least Malcolm was chosen for her, but she had never realized that choosing one life meant erasing the other. That night, Malcolm kissed her and whispered, "You're all mine now." She smiled, said, "I know." But as he pulled her close, her eyes drifted to the mirror. And for just a second, she thought she saw Brandon's family behind her. She blinked, gone. Malcolm's fingers traced her jaw. "You okay?" She forced a smile. "Yeah," she whispered, but deep down she already knew. She didn't want Brandon. But now she would spend the rest of her life wondering. What if she had fought for Brandon? What if he had fought for her? And worse, what if this